Hey everyone, a face you haven't seen in a while, Joey Clark, Jabbering Jawas. I'll probably mess this up a lot. Um, and your other host,
Will, the thrill, Stafford.
or as we go by around here, Joey Wong Kenobi and Will Sick. Um, Hopefully you all been doing good. And just to explain, I got really sick in the middle of December with COVID. I'm still kind of tapering off, so please bear with me. Um, but it's good to be back with my buddy Will. Um, Talking Star Wars. We'll probably just go, hopefully, as brief as possible. My thoughts on the last couple episodes of Mando. What do I think about these new Star Wars projects and that are coming to Disney Plus and the film? And then there's some bunch of Star Wars news pouring out on the side. So,
Yes.
what
But yeah, they already know my thoughts on these. They saw the last episode, hopefully, and everything. So, just let us know how you feel about like the last few episodes of The Mandalorian, the new shows that are coming out, everything. Just rapid fire.
I think so. Just go to Mando. Episode 9, I really did like, or the chapter 15. Um, Bill Burr, I love you as a comedian, and I definitely am loving you as an actor. As Mayfeld, I really hope we see that character return. I think
Hmm.
there's a good chance, especially with the positive feedback, and it seems like Bill Burr really enjoyed his time on The Mandalorian. Um, I'm all here for him every single day. Um, and it was a really emotionally charged performance he gave, and then the Mandalorian taking off, or Din Djarin taking off his helmet again, basically saying, "Fuck the creed. The child is more important to me than anything."
Yep.
To me, that was super cool, and it's starting to show that he's willing to change, or he's willing to change his views um, for the things that he cares about more. And I think he's kind of altering his creed, but still being an honorable person, which is cool. Um, and just the layer building to that character overall. Uh, the last episode, I cried. I was Luke Skywalker, the way he should have been. Captain
Yep.
Kennedy, Ryan Johnson. Ryan, I love Knives Out. You fucked up with The Last Jedi. Don't hate you. I don't like Kathleen Kennedy because she said good job. We'll put that in. Um, yeah, that was seeing Luke as the Luke Skywalker we all deserved was epic. I just wish it was truly Hamill versus CGI, but I get why they had to do it.
Hmm.
CGI didn't bother me. A lot of people need to realize CGI has come a long way in the past, just decade alone. So, calm your tits. I thought it was pretty good, and the fact that he can also voice that old Luke Skywalker blew me away because he's an awesome voice actor.
Hmm.
Besides Star Wars, but hearing that original trilogy Luke voice, it floored me. Seeing that green lightsaber, seeing them direct Luke as if he were Anakin, like just his lightsaber and force moves, and then him crushing um, the Dark Trooper, like just every single thing about that moment. And I remember we made the bet or whatever long ago. Like I said, Luke would be the one at the end. And as soon as I saw that X-wing, and I was like,
Hmm. Yeah. And they
"Whoa."
made sure that you fucking they knew too. They're like, she's like, oh, there's just one X-wing. I'm like, well, okay, it's gonna be fucking Luke now. Like, we know this now. Yeah.
And like I remember Patty, my girlfriend, was looking at me, and she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Doing it." I felt chills. I was fucking excited beyond all belief, and seeing Grogu being taken away by Luke was heart wrenching. But the other thing too that I really liked was the callback to when Mando takes off his helmet to look at Grogu, and it just reminded me of Return of the Jedi, the last time we saw the real Luke Skywalker. Just let me look upon you with my own eyes. It's just
Mm-hmm.
they hit it perfectly, and I could not be more happy. Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, Peyton Reed, who directed the episode. Thank you for bringing back my Luke. It's the Luke we always deserved, and the Luke that I think Hamill deserved. Um, I do hope. I don't think it'll happen, but I think because he's probably in the good graces now, I could see him returning again, maybe as an older version of himself. And I'll talk about this a bit more, but there is this theory, and I've thought about it too. Ahsoka has the World of the Worlds thing, the new show, around her name. Maybe they will play with an alternate timeline so they can right the wrongs of the sequel trilogy, and maybe we'll see those characters in a new light. Or the other thing I'm thinking, since you mentioned Thrawn, maybe they're gonna kind of adapt somewhat the heir to the Empire storyline. I think
Yeah.
that'd be cool, just taking the strong elements of it out. I know there are some weaker points in it, but it is a pretty good story, and it's a cohesive one at that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case, to be honest. Yeah.
That'd be cool to see. Yeah. And yeah, like, because we were talking about that, I don't know if Thrawn is actually going to be in the Mandalorian, if they just talked about him so that he'll be in like the Ahsoka series or something.
Yeah.
Because that almost seems like what it's going to be, since it looks like definitely Ahsoka's not going to be back in the Mandalorian or anything. She's going to be in her own series. So, yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, speaking of Ahsoka, I mean, what, 10 new shows coming out in movies? Yeah, there was a lot. So,
Out of everything that's been announced, what are you most excited for?
well, I think I talked about this on the last episode, but that's like I said, I'm excited for the Cassian Andor series. I liked Cassian in Rogue One and everything. I feel like we didn't really get enough of them that I could. I know why you connect with him and everything, but for me, I was just like, oh, I feel like I didn't get enough with him yet, and now we're gonna get a whole series. And like I said, if they made Solo a series, it would have been like
10 times better.
10 times better, yeah. And this to me feels like that, but even with Cassian, like I said before, he can do so much more because he's such a. I mean, you heard him in Rogue One. He's done some bad shit apparently, and I want to see what he did. So now, yeah, I want to know. And what made him so like jaded that he couldn't like trust Jin and everything like so much. Like, was he hurt before? I want to see like all this play out. How did he meet K2? I can't remember anybody's name, but how did he meet like his droid and everything? So it's like, yeah, these are things that I would love to see.
No, I think they're probably gonna show that moment of him reprogramming him, and I don't think I'll cry, but I'm probably just gonna be like nerding out because I love K2SO. He's one of my favorite, if not my favorite droid. It's a toss up between him and Chopper from Rebels.
Yeah, and they should definitely be able to bring back Alan Tudyk for that. So, yeah.
I'm also wondering for Cassian if we will see any members of Rebels or Clone Wars in it, because it is diving into. I don't know how much, because I know Favreau and Filoni are working on, I think, Rangers of the New Republic and Ahsoka, but I wonder how much pool they have for the other material, or if maybe John Favreau is a little bit an overseer kind of with Filoni on these, like, oh, maybe you should add this because it'll be in here. It would be cool because I think Rogue One definitely did some really good callbacks on its own. So it'd be interesting to see for sure, especially if we could see like, I don't know, like maybe Hera pop up somewhere. I know that they hadn't officially joined Rebel cells until later in the Rebel series, but it would be cool. I think for me, the two that I'm most excited about is Cassian is my second choice, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite character.
Yes. I mean,
Especially when they announced Hayden Christensen was gonna be in it, and I'm like, and
yeah.
it also said like the duel of the century or something like that, and I was like, so they're fucking fighting again.
Mhm.
So
And I don't know. Well, I mean, it's limited, so it probably will just mostly be about them, and then probably, I mean, Luke's gonna be in it in some capacity, like a younger version of him. And then I don't know. I'm not giving up the. Well, no, probably not. I don't think Darth Maul's gonna be there because Darth Maul doesn't know where he is for a while, apparently. So, yeah, because this will be before Rebels and everything, right?
I gotta
It's
look
kind of
at.
between.
I don't think they'll pull Darth Maul in unless they want a bigger audience to know that he's dead. But I
Yeah.
don't think they're gonna. We might
Well,
see.
but it would be before Rebels, though, right? And then Rebels, he's old already.
Let me look at the timeline.
Yeah, Rebels, he's older. So this will be before that. But it also sounds like in Rebels that Darth Maul hasn't seen Obi-Wan in a really, really long time. So it'd probably be kind of weird to have him in there. I'm hoping for that, but I doubt it would happen.
Place 8 years after Revenge of the Sith, so I think. Yeah, I think Maul's probably still alive.
Yeah, he'd just be doing his Crimson Dawn stuff. Speaking of Crimson Dawn, I also feel like that. Well, probably not in those series, but maybe possibly in like the Lando series and everything. I'm pretty sure they'll probably explore that.
Oh shit! Yeah, they announced that too. That was one.
Yeah, and I'm assuming they'll probably have Solo in there in some capacity too.
I would think so. I mean, I wouldn't
Yeah.
see wouldn't use him. But here's the thing: out of the two performances, I enjoyed Lando more. However,
Yeah, that's fair.
know what is so cool about him that we need to know in this period of time.
That's why I think it's definitely a catalyst for other shit that's also going on. I feel like it's gonna be about Lando because they always make their shit about heroes. We talked about this. They like rarely ever make stuff about villains. Like it. Think about all the shows. Is there any that are about a villain?
Well, the new one that's gonna come out,
Which one?
Acolyte.
Oh, is that about a villain?
Yeah, it's like a dark.
Oh, like a Sith acolyte. Got it. Yeah. Hmm. That's what I'm saying. But they mostly make their stuff about heroes because they're always about, it's got to be about hope in the end and all that stuff. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just cynical and I'm like, hey, just make a show about Darth Maul. But yeah.
I would fucking love that.
I want to see Darth Maul mow down everybody.
I want to see. You know, what would be a cool thing is if you had a Palpatine series and it went through from Plagueis training him to him killing Plagueis to him getting Darth Maul as an apprentice.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see too. There's a lot
And
of things I would like.
Young Emperor.
Yeah, I just love to have them explore just more backstory of like the villains and how they got to where they are. It'd be cool to see. It'd be cool to see.
At some point they will.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to see Palpatine going to Dathomir and like, just picking this kid up. Like, hey, taking him. All right, peace. But yeah, like I don't know. We'll see what the Acolyte is about actually, because it sounds interesting just like from the title and kind of like the short synopsis that I read. But it's like, yeah, I just have to see more before I'm like, oh yeah, it's one of my most anticipated or something. I don't know what it's about yet. So yeah.
The one thing I do worry about it with the person running it is if they're going to. I just hope they don't play around with like. Star Wars has always had politics in it, but it is very subtle, or at least a very generalized thing.
It's within the universe of Star Wars.
And it fits and it makes sense because it's with our daily lives. I don't want them to throw in some PC agenda thing into that show because of who's running it and being picked by Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
Obviously, she has picked people before, but from what I've heard and some pretty strong testimonials about the selection, it was kind of done under the rug, under Bob Iger's radar, without really any approval.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the things where I'm like, mm,
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this before. It's like you can have a message and relate things to stuff in real life, but like don't be so fucking on the nose about it sometimes because it just kind of ruins the pacing and like the writing and everything and like the movie and it can take people out of it. It's like, sure, I'm all about women empowerment, but when you like throw it in my face, like, was it
in-game.
fucking was that in game? Yeah, in game. And it literally has no purpose. It's literally just like, hey, we're just gonna walk together, and
Or
we have the
all
most
Marvel.
powerful person ever right here who can destroy fucking Thanos on her own. But we're not gonna have her do that because we need to send off Robert Downey Jr. instead. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's just like, why? Don't do that, and then undermine it in the same breath. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah, and then it, the other thing that kind of, this is not Star Wars related, but hearing that Brie Larson will make appearances in Miss Marvel, I'm like, I don't want that. I just want Miss Marvel because I like Miss Marvel, and she'll probably be pretty cool. I
Oh, the
don't want.
Kamala Khan. That.
Yeah, that run. Like I started reading that run,
Hmm.
and it's really good, and I enjoyed it. And it was cool that she, was from a different background, and it plays into the
He's,
character really well.
yeah, I get you there because the thing that worries me about that is that it will be like Spider-Man: Homecoming, where I like the movie, I do, but I really, really fucking hate that Tony Stark gave him everything. I hate that because Peter Parker has always been.
Agreed.
He built his own web shooters. He made his suit, like all that stuff, and then now it's just like, no, Tony Stark just gave it to him, and I'm just like, it's part of Peter's character, and that's why I can't, even though I like his performance as Spider-Man, I still can't think of like Tom Holland Spider-Man as like one of my favorites because I'm just like, he's not Peter Parker enough. Like he just literally got given stuff by a rich guy, basically. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's, yeah, like it's not the same.
Man, thanks for putting that in my head because I never thought about it.
Really, you never thought, like that's the only thing that bothered me about Homecoming and just kind of Spider-Man and the MCU in general is number one that number two there was like in the second one there's catastrophic like levels of shit going on, and then like none of the other Avengers could come down here and like stop the elemental monsters. No, okay, and that's just the MCU problem in general, where it's like if we're gonna do everything on Earth, then okay, you gotta come up with a way to explain why the other 5, 6, 7, 10 superpower people can't come down and help. But and that's my only thing about the Star Wars universe now, where they have like stuff like Lando or whatever, and then it's gonna cross over with other things. It's like where are all these other people? But I will say Star Wars at least they give themselves a little bit more leeway because they're across like the galaxy. So it's like they could be anywhere in the galaxy. So
Yeah,
whereas most of Marvel takes place on Earth all the time. So yeah.
no, I see that. Well, Star Wars, yeah, the Across the Galaxy is like you can only do so much stuff. I don't think they really do. That's one thing about Star Wars, where they don't do a good job of explaining how long it actually takes to travel.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it doesn't help that they confuse people with like terms like parsecs and hyperspace and stuff like that because people don't. I mean, you don't really need to understand what they mean, but when people analyze it, then they're like, "Wait, that doesn't make sense." But it's whatever. It's just part of the charm.
I'm able to explain parsec and solo. Like it's like the way you map out a course. It's
Yeah.
all okay. That's all right. That's one of the few things where it's like, okay, that's one of those explanations where I'm like, I'm okay with that.
Mm.
Midichlorians, not so much, George.
M counts. M counts now.
Yeah, I kind of liked how they were like, we hate midichlorians, but we'll call it an M count for you, George.
I mean, that makes sense though, because like if that dude was a scientist, so it makes sense that he would come up with some sort of scientific thing to explain the force or whatever,
Yeah. So.
or how powerful somebody is with the force. Man,
Nerd. um,
basically.
I was that's cool. But yeah, just going back to everything. Andor and Obi-Wan Kenobi, super psyched for both of those. And I know Liam Neeson in a recent interview was like, "Yeah, I'd really love to go back." I hope he's kind of pulling an Ewan and just being like, "I'm coming back, but I can only say that I want to come back."
Yeah,
So
that'd be great.
to me, it would be really fucking stupid if they didn't have him back as Force Ghost. It falls perfectly in line. It would be something fans would love. So bring him back.
So there's a bunch of rumors, um, just recently about people thinking that Samuel Jackson was going to come back during the season of Mandalorian. I obviously don't think he's going to be in the Mandalorian, but do you think there's a chance that he will be back in any of these other shows? Ahsoka, maybe? I don't know. Wait, what?
Maybe a possible glimpse if they're playing around with World Between Worlds.
Hmm.
I think it would be cool because he's open to it, and we never knew what happened. He could have survived the fall if he wasn't.
Yeah, we've
In,
actually seen him. He's like jumped from places about that high, so it's like I get that he was shocked, like hit with lightning and everything, but I feel like it was definitely possible he could have survived. So
I think, I think it's very possible. Will they decide to do it? I just hope if they do, they have a good story for it.
yeah. No, like
What?
I thought they'd make like a series off of him or anything like that, but I think it's possible he could show up in another series. And then my other question, so they have that one about well, there's actually a few that I think maybe we could possibly see Luke. Do you think he could possibly show up in Rogue Squadron or maybe what is it, the Republic Commandos and stuff? I feel like just all the things that are based off the Republic. It's a
Yeah.
possibility.
So. Oh, and then I'm also super excited for the Bad Batch. Anything, pretty much Star Wars
Oh yeah,
animation besides Resistance. Excited for. But
except Resistance.
Luke in Legends is the commander of Rogue Squadron. I don't know if they're gonna go that route because I don't know if they just really want to focus it on an X-wing pilot-based story.
Mm-hmm.
It is possible, but I think in that case they would probably recast.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Up, it will be like a hologram, and
so that was interesting. The dude that they had basically be the body for Luke, and then they put Mark Hamill's face on him. It's just some random guy. Like I mean, he wasn't random. He's an actor and everything. The last thing that he was known for, that I've seen at least, was like the fucking Sandlot or something when he was a kid. So it's like, would it be that guy? Or are they gonna actually cast somebody else to do it? Sebastian Stan? I don't know, because a lot of people were expecting that. But I just thought it was interesting that they like hired just like some guy and then put Luke's face on there. So it's like, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing, and I'll talk about Rogue Squadron right now too. This is their first film back, and I'm a bit disappointed. This is the concept that they decided to go with for their first film back.
Hmm.
We've waited. We were gonna wait until 2022. Now COVID 2023. And you're telling me the first film you want to lead with is this. I think it's a bit underwhelming and a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
I know I haven't seen the film. We don't know what the premise is. It could be awesome as shit, and I'll eat my own words. Fine. This doesn't seem like the type of film where everyone's going to be like, yeah, man, it's a fucking X-Wing movie.
Yeah. It's a little bit solo-ish, honestly. Like
Yeah.
if you think about it, whereas like, yeah, it's fine. I think if people watch it, they'll probably enjoy Solo. Like I've seen more people now who have Disney Plus or something, they watch Solo and they're like, oh, I actually really enjoyed that. But it's not gonna make people want to, especially after COVID's over and then like theaters are open, people aren't gonna be clamoring at theaters to be like, yeah, COVID just ended or something. We got the vaccines, but when they go there and fucking watch Rogue Squadron, that's what my first movie I want to watch when I come back. Like, yeah, it's not really Like if you had a movie titled like Darth Maul or something, like people are gonna fucking go see that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
Darth Maul. Only Darth Maul.
just Darth Maul movie. Like, yeah, people are gonna go fucking go see that. Like day one, even if like there was a zombie apocalypse, they're gonna go see that shit. But yeah, like Roast watching is exactly gonna be like, oh yeah, definitely need to go see that. Which is why I'm like, I feel like there's gonna be something in it. Like Luke or somebody is gonna be in it.
Yeah, but if they do, here's the thing. The whole fan casting thing, they got Rosario as Ahsoka, which everyone wanted. I was super underwhelmed with her. So I'm willing to give the Ahsoka series a chance, and hopefully I think she'll grow into the character.
Hmm.
But I was super disappointed by that. It was not my favorite part of the series, which I thought it would have been, or at least Luke.
Do
I
you,
mean, Luke
do
was.
you think
And
they did that because the fans kept like clamoring for her to be Ahsoka? Or?
well, because Filoni said, "Oh, I heard fans were saying this," and then I checked into it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, you should have picked who you thought would be the. I mean, not saying he didn't, but yeah, I just hope they don't go for a fan casting just because. Here's the thing: there are some things fans want that make absolute sense. Having a good Luke Skywalker in TLJ, he would have started off his sad, depressing self, then turned into something much more, and didn't die by just using the Force. That's fine. Yeah, that makes sense. But just to cast somebody, no. The one
And
person that doesn't show up in Star Wars, but I think will, is Brie Larson.
and I and I will say, fans a lot like no offense, but fans mostly just choose people by the way they look, and that's it. Like I've seen fans who were like, oh, like when the live action Lion King came out or something, they're like, oh yeah, they have Beyonce. They should put Nicki Minaj as this and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, can Nicki Minaj act? Like I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like it's they're just like putting like these random ass people, and it's just like they had to like you can't just cast people. They have to be able to actually like do it. And it's like people want Rihanna or something in the movie, and I'm like, Rihanna's acted a few times, and like I love Rihanna. I love to look at Rihanna, but she's not a good actress. Like, she's not a good actress though. Rihanna, if you're watching this, I love you, but don't don't take that personally. But I'm just saying you're not a good actress. Yeah.
Yeah, Rosario, I was like I said, I was just underwhelmed.
Yeah, she is a good actress, but I don't think she has this character down yet. So we'll see.
And like I said, that's why I'll give her a chance with the Ahsoka series. And you know who might have been a good choice? Would have been maybe why am I forgetting? Zoe Saldana?
Yeah.
Because I could
My
see her voice more as Ahsoka than I could Rosario's.
my only thing is I feel like I almost feel like they might have considered that, but I think it's a little weird when you bring people over because they already have her in Marvel, you know. But I mean, then again, her character is, I guess, she's dead. But then there's gonna be another Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm like, I feel like they're gonna find a way to like bring her back. I don't know. We'll see, but yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah. So it's like I don't know. Oh wait, they did, didn't they? I had to rewatch all the fucking end games and all that shit, but I think they might. I don't know.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
she was alive. I think she ran off.
yeah. Oh, because they went back in time. Yes, yes. Okay, okay. I remember now. Well, I don't know. I just feel like it's a little weird when you cast people from across your other like main series and then put them over here. Like if it's a, we already talked about this. So like, what if it's like more of a minor character? Like if we see the one who plays like Black Panther's like his main bodyguard, can't remember her name, but she's in The Walking Dead and everything. If they brought her over, I almost feel like somebody like that, or even Sebastian Stan, because he's kind of like one of the main characters, but not really. But he's also gonna they're gonna have their own show now, so I don't know about that either. Um, but yeah, if you bring somebody over like that over to Star Wars, it's a little bit more. I think it's a little weird. Like if you bring over like fucking Chris Evans or something, it's gonna be kind of weird. But I don't know.
I
to
could
make
see
him an alien.
being a really cool like bounty hunter or rebel leader.
I'd actually love to see Chris Evans play more bad guys because I feel like he can be like one of those charming bad guys, you know? And those are always the best kind of bad guys. And I mean, he played a bad guy obviously in Knives Out, but that was more of like a, grounded actual kind of reality thing. But let's see him play like some crazy ass alien or something. That'd be kind of cool because he has a lot more range than people give him credit for.
I mean, at first it's like I think anytime like you have a big actor and like in a big role like that, it's a little jarring to see them at first. But I think if they're a good actor, it goes away. Like I saw Chris Evans and I was joking with Patty like, "Hey, Cap's being bad," and then like as I watched the movie, it's like, "That's Ransom. He did a
Mm-hmm.
good job."
Yeah, there's actually a good example in Thor. Idris Elba and Carl Urban playing like the Asgardians because they're both pretty like popular actors now, but the way they put them in there, like they're like the little gatekeepers and shit, and they
Yeah,
did really well in those roles. So I can see that, something like that.
I think it all just depends. I remember there was some people saying Robert Downey Jr. in talks to do Thrawn. I'm like, no fucking way.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that.
No
There
fuck.
was
And now
there
they're
was
doing.
somebody. Oh, well, I saw people talking about Benedict Cumberbatch. That's what I keep saying.
I
Uh, like, have you seen him play when he played Khan? Because I know a lot of people didn't like when he played Khan because Khan was originally uh, Ricardo Montalban or whatever. But I actually liked how he acted in that movie, and I also think he could play a good, like, calculated evil bad guy, and then he'll be wearing blue makeup and like have red eyes. So I'm like, I don't know, I could kind of see it.
I think some outlets, I don't think any credible ones yet, but we're saying that the voice actor Lars Mikkelsen has been confirmed.
I
I
mean,
don't
that
know.
makes the most.
It makes the most sense, but I don't. I think there are other people that can look better, but if you do a little prosthetic and put the makeup, I think it'll be fine.
Like Mads Mikkelsen? No.
The weird thing is, I feel like Mads would look more like
Yeah.
because you have to think Rebels Thrawn is stylized. All of those
Yeah.
characters are stylized because of the animation.
But they already put Mads in the fucking Star Wars universe, so this is awkward.
But I do. mm, The one thing that I would be, I like the look of Rebels Thrawn, but I wouldn't want live action Thrawn to be as slim and taper because like the EU
Mhm.
look kind of fit and strong, and I kind of think it would be a bit better if whoever played him was a bit more toned.
All right, so The Rock got it. Okay.
Could you imagine? Oh, guys, the Empire.
Admiral Thrawn says that you jabronis are.
Yeah, fuck no. I don't. I love The Rock and I respect him. I cannot see him doing anything in Star Wars unless he played a big alien with a shit ton of makeup and not his voice.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you imagine them being like an imperial like guard or something? It's just like his face. Like, yeah, he's just one of those. He's one of those people. Yeah. If you see his face, you're like, what? The Rock's in this? What? Like, yeah. Like it'd be kind of cool if he showed up in something and we literally had no idea. And you look after and then you see like it's The Rock. Like maybe he can play a giant tree too, like Vin Diesel. Like I didn't even know that was fucking Vin Diesel that was playing Groot. So
That's true.
yeah, it's been working out for him.
The only character like in my mind that he would probably be okay, like I said, just a big ass alien or a Lasat, but like he would have to wear a mask, obviously, or CGI the fuck out of it, maybe.
Yeah, Lasat could be good actually.
I'd be really worried about what a Lasat would look like in live action because it's kind of a goofy concept. Like it works for animation, but
I
like
mean, Is it any?
fur and bright green eyes.
Would it be any worse than the Vulcan people? That's just,
But that looks like an alien, and it's not as big and in your face. I feel like
yeah,
a Lasat is a fucking Wookiee-sized purple furball.
yeah. Huh.
I love Lasats though. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
Zeb is my favorite character in Rebels.
Zed's awesome. Uh, but yeah, uh, shit. What were we even? What did we start ranting off of? Oh, Rogue One. No, Rogue Squadron. I was like, whoa, where did all this start? Yeah,
And the fact that Patty Jenkins is writing it or co-writing it after the flop of Wonder Woman 84, I'm not too optimistic that this film is going to be all that great. I'm just going in with the expectations like this is
yeah.
going to be one of the greatest Star Wars films. But if it ends up
Like, yeah, I booted up Wonder Woman 1984, and I was just like, okay, this is like cool. They're going for the 80s vibe. That's cool. And then like the more you watch it, you're just like, man, it's a weird choice. And you're like, oh, okay, this is strange writing. And there are some like decent heartfelt moments, but they always come after like some weird moment where you're like, why the fuck did they do that? But yeah.
well, it's kind of like TLJ, where like The Last Jedi has admittedly a few good moments in it, but they're all connected by absolute bullshit.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that Wonder Woman 3 is more Return of the Jedi or Revenge of the Sith and not Rise of Skywalker. So,
Are
and
they
you know,
doing?
what's her name was fine. Kristen Wiig was fine, but her character motivations in it, like you've seen Spider-Man 2, right? Well, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and they had
No,
Jamie Foxx.
I
What?
didn't watch either of those two.
You didn't watch that one? Yeah. Well, the Amazing Spider-Man's not that great, but it reminded me of that where it's like Jamie Foxx becomes a bad guy for the stupidest fucking reasons. So I'm just like, okay, but yeah,
I mean, the best villains are the ones where you almost want to side with them. Like Thanos makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
I think it's cool too when villains do that because it kind of questions your own morality as a person. Like, what would you do? Would you be a Thanos or would you be an Avenger?
yeah,
As long as you're not a psychopath and you're like, I think I was just gonna kill everybody.
yeah. It's like you just need that nuance between like with a villain and everything, like Killmonger, like you said, Thanos. It's like they have things that make sense that they say, even though their way that they do it, you can't quite agree with, and that's. I mean, it mirrors real life. It's like people who are on a certain side, they're like, they think, hey, we're the good guys. People on the other side, they think that they're the good guys. Nobody thinks they're the bad guy. You know, nobody thinks that they're the bad person in a situation. So,
Yeah. And the one thing I wanted to ask you about, because I've been kind of going over this in my mind, um, what is your thoughts about a lot of this content being in between 6 and 7, like that's coming to Disney Plus?
well, I mean, we talked about that before, where we kind of feel like that's really all they can do in terms of like the sequels and everything, because of how little time they gave themselves between those movies. So if anything's gonna connect to the sequels, it kind of has to be before. And if they, I don't know if they can do after right now because it's like, what the fuck is gonna go on with like all the actors that were on there? And are they gonna do animated shit after? Like I don't know. So I don't think that they're too concerned with doing after right now. And there's a bunch of gaps now that we're like, we kind of want answers to hopefully maybe make us understand why the fuck Palpatine's just back and shit like this. Like who the fuck like Rey's parents were and shit like that. How this whole stormtrooper how this whole transition happened where they're like, oh yeah, we just kidnap these kids now, blah blah blah, and train them from when they're age 2. I don't know.
You know
There's
the
a bunch
weird.
of questions.
Or sorry,
I'll go ahead.
I don't know if I've said it on here before. I might have, but here's the thing. I might love these new shows and think they're absolutely awesome. The only thing is, what they all end up leading to is absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
Because even if these shows are phenomenal, and I think there's a good chance they will be, in the end, unless there is going to be an alternate timeline thing with Ahsoka, it seems like it's heavily teased that the world between worlds is going to be used some way, somehow.
Mhm.
And I really hope that they do the alternate timeline thing.
I
I
think, yeah, that's a good idea, honestly.
Then it would be worth investing into these shows, and maybe that's what their whole thing is. Because I don't fault the talent as far as the actors in those movies.
Hmm.
I loved what they attempted to. It's just like with the prequels. George has some issues with dialogue, has issues with directing, and the actors, especially the seasoned actors, did really well because they had a lot of experience acting. So Liam Neeson did awesome. Ian McDiarmid, Ewan McGregor, all did phenomenal. But newer like Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen kind of get lost in this spell of things. So,
Hmm.
but I think arguably the best cast trilogy was the
Yeah,
sequel.
definitely the most talent. And
So I
yeah,
would
the,
love that.
well, it's funny you bring that up, right? Because I actually had a conversation with somebody really recently. Because I've been watching Cobra Kai, and it builds off of the Karate Kid movies. And the Karate Kid movies were not great in any sense of the word. Like they weren't like some amazing like masterpieces or anything, but they had memorable, fun, like cool, consistent characters. And then Cobra Kai just builds off of that with something that's like really well written and everything. And then you think about the prequels and Clone Wars. They had, we all know that the fucking prequels were not perfect at all, but they had cool, like consistent like characters that you could at least like attach yourself to. Like, well, mostly, so maybe like Jar Jar or something. But I know some people like Jar Jar now. I know, but yeah, like they at least had those, and then Clone Wars could build off of that. So yeah, when you look at the sequel trilogy now, you're like, well, these characters aren't really consistent. I did think they were cool at one point, but most of them I'm kind of like,
I don't really give a shit because of how they ended up.
to be honest, the only thing I really want to know with a lot of these characters are like where they were before, honestly. Like you think about like we talked about this. I want to know about Rose and her sister, like her sister who was in the fucking like rebel army. I want to know about that. I want to know about Ray's parents. Like we still want answers about these things that we should have already got answers for in the movies. So I want to know about Finn's family and where the fuck he came from. I want to know about what the fuck Poe was doing before all this. Like I almost feel like a lot of people don't even care what happens to him after this. We're just like, okay, cool, you beat the Emperor again, and then because there's so many other answers that we just don't have about these characters.
Imagine if they made Mace Windu Finn's father.
It wouldn't surprise me. It
Like,
wouldn't surprise me since the random fucking stormtrooper chick is Lando's daughter. So
I didn't actually mind that one too much because there's only a few good things in the novelization, and it is explaining why. Because I
mhm.
guess the First Order wanted to kidnap the children of rebel leaders to make an example, kind of. So that was like, okay, that's a pretty good story point, and I can respect that. There are
Mhm.
very few things in that book that I do. That's one of them. Or even if it just happens to be like their brother and sister, and they didn't realize it. I doubt that. But like if Mace Windu was like, the Jedi aren't around, need to have an offspring.
That would actually explain a little bit more, honestly, because they almost made it feel like at the end of that movie there, like Finn was now having this like almost sort of like budding romantic connection with this girl now. And it's like, what's going on with Finn? Like, why is he going from like first movie Ray, second movie Rose, third movie this, her now? It's just like, what? So that it actually make more sense if it was like a kind of Luke and Leia thing where like they don't know they're related, but there's something that they get, like there's a connection. So that almost made me feel a little bit better about that. But yeah, it's like doesn't people are also kind of tired of that a little bit though, where it's like, oh, everybody in the Star Wars universe is related to somebody, famous or one of the top people or whatever. It's just like, yeah. And the Ray Palpatine thing didn't help. So yeah.
Well, because that was pulled out of their ass. That wasn't a planned thing. Like even Ridley confirmed, "Oh, we were gonna do a Kenobi connection." Like, well, why the fuck didn't you?
Yeah, that dude, I called that from the fucking beginning. Like I knew. I'm like, bro, I swear to God, JJ knew that's what he fucking wanted, and they didn't fucking do it. And I'm like, bro, like, she was supposed to be Kenobi. I know she was. When she had that fucking vision in the first movie, and like Kenobi was the last one talking to her, and I'm like, she's fucking British. Like, a Kenobi training like a Skywalker training Kenobi now. It just made sense. Like, it just made sense. Like, come on, I can write these parallels, Disney. Come on. Like,
It would have been perfect. Like again, like you said, not everyone needs to be connected, but I think it is cool if you have a certain lineage going through because it'll always be present.
I mean, at least have it like circle around because it's like that's literally how it started. You had Kenobi found this child, Anakin Skywalker. He trained him. He's supposed to be chosen one, and then maybe not have Palpatine come back. I don't know, but in the end, it ends up being Skywalker now helping a Kenobi.
And then it goes back even more full circle where Kenobi redeems a Skywalker in
Mm-hmm.
Ben.
Yeah, because he didn't get to redeem. Yeah, exactly. He didn't get to redeem Vader himself. So it would have been amazing to see Skywalker be able to redeem. I'm sorry, Kenobi be able to redeem Skywalker. Well, technically it's Solo, but yeah, because we did talk about that too. Because Leia's technically Organa, then Han
Skywalker.
Solo.
Well, the thing that I was saying was I thought that Rey should have been Rey Solo because Leia did take, I think, Han's name, but she still had her own, so I think it was Organa Solo.
I mean, when she took the name at the end.
Yeah, and she had a really good thing with Han as far as a father figure type thing, and then Ben was, I guess, her true love or some bullshit. So Solo would have been a better name to take than Skywalker would have.
Yeah, or just Ben doesn't die and then they get married and then she's Solo there.
Yeah, having Ben die was some bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
to me, that doesn't show any kind of hope, especially when it's a younger guy. To
So
me,
well,
that just shows like, oh, if you fucked up when you were younger, well, fuck you. And the only way you can do anything is, to me, it would have been a stronger story. And I've said it before a bunch of times. He goes back to the Rebel Alliance. He's like, I was once Kylo Ren, and I was wrong, and I am here as Ben Solo because of the sacrifice my mother made. If you accept me, please forgive me, or you might not be the
okay.
blah blah
Here
blah.
it is. I'm about to save all of Star Wars. So the Ahsoka series, right? We're in like fucking season 5 now. Ahsoka, she's gone back. She's a little older now. She goes back to the world between worlds. And then bam, oh my gosh, she's in the world between worlds, and we see Rey over here fighting Palpatine. And that's why you heard her voice, because she was actually like right there. And instead, she like goes a little further. She's fucking pulling people out, and she goes back to the beginning of that timeline, and she changes the whole goddamn thing. And Ahsoka's the fucking one that saves all this shit. So that's why we heard that she's like, Rey,
You
reach
just
out. And she's like,
as
oh
fuck.
no, Ben. Yeah, she's sitting there, she's like, oh, Ben died. This is not balanced. I need to go back and fucking like change this shit.
Dude, you just came up with the best, unless someone else has already said.
Or even better yet, she just saves Ben right there. So this is like already she's starting a new timeline because she saved Ben right there. And then they go back. And now we're seeing Ben, like his redemption is he's trying to stop all this shit from happening in the first place.
What if Ahsoka became like the mother in Mortis, Rey was like the daughter, and Kylo was like the son?
And that's the end of that series and or movies trilogy. Ooh. Disney
That
hire us. Disney hire us.
Jawas fucking save Star Wars.
Right? Would that not be fucking awesome to see? It's like literally the fucking Ahsoka show like leads into those movies, and then bam, like she saves Ben. Ben and her are like, all right, we're gonna save Rey and all them, and then yeah, that's how it ends. That'd be crazy.
I actually really like that idea if that were to happen. But do you think if they do play with timelines, that they'll still have the same characters though? That's the one thing I was kind of wondering because I do really like those original characters,
Well, that
but
I think it could be a way for them to make the characters better, honestly. Because I mean, if you mess with the timeline, like things are gonna be different, right? So maybe there's like some alternate timeline to go into, and then fucking I don't know, Finn never quit being a stormtrooper or something. Now Ray's like, I gotta convince him to see that he's like, you know, let me get some more character development with Finn because now she's trying to like break him out of being a stormtrooper because he hasn't given it up yet or whatever, you know. I don't know. Because maybe Ben went back like so far that he went and like found Ray before like any of that shit happened. So then she never met Finn or something. Then I don't know.
or if Ahsoka makes a mess of timelines accidentally and pulls out the wrong character, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the holiday special.
I still need to watch that. Yeah, I still need to watch
It's
that.
it's pretty good.
I'll probably watch it after this actually, because I literally just finished WandaVision, so I'll probably watch that after this. Uh, but yeah, dude, there's so many possibilities. I just please somebody, if you don't let us write it, somebody needs to write this, okay? So Disney, if you're watching this, please just imagine how awesome that would be on screen. Just saying. You can see some fan favorite characters saving not only the fucking universe and Ben, but the franchise.
That'd be awesome if Filoni made his own character. Be like, she saved fucking Star Wars' ass. Suck it, Disney.
Do it. Do it,
I
Filoni, do it.
have to do something like that, to be honest.
Like that literally just popped into my mind. I'm like, dude, that would be fucking awesome. Like Ahsoka was saved from that, you know? So it's like maybe this whole time she's been hesitant about it, but she has been around and she's like, oh my god, this is all like messed up, and she fucking goes back and saves it or something. I don't know.
You think it'll be like a J.J. Abrams Luke line where it's like, something doesn't seem right here. Like how he said, a Jedi's weapon deserves more respect, and she's like, these events don't seem to add up. That would be fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
But there's also going around that the sequel Rebels series is canceled and that Ahsoka is supposed to launch the live action version. I'm like,
hmm.
here's the thing. I don't know if characters would translate well into live action. Like I said, Zeb would probably be a problem.
Yeah,
And
going from animated to live action is much harder than going from live action to animated. Because in animated you can do pretty much whatever you want, you know. So you don't have to have all these like certain actors here. You don't have to set up all these certain sets and like we talked about this during the Mandalorian, and it's funnier because literally during that episode when we talked about um the one where they went to uh Grogu was on the Seeing Stone and everything. I can't remember the name of the place, but the Jedi like
yeah,
homeworld and everything. We were talking about how wow, this whole thing kind of looks like they didn't put that much effort into like making this temple like it was kind of like a bland ass desert, and you're like, oh well, they probably just did that so they could save money to do Luke at the end. It looks like that's exactly what happened, and that's my thing about
I like how that was my joke, and it
that's because I think that's exactly what happened. I'm like, they didn't make like an actual temple and shit because they needed to save money to do the CGI Luke face, but
because
yeah,
they
that
like the desert of California, and that's about it.
yeah,
It
I was like, this looks like a normal ass desert. What the hell's going on?
especially
Tython, that's what it was.
especially when this place is supposed to be this ancient originator
Mhm.
and at least do some like minimal color grading
Yeah,
to
some
make
temple. Yeah, it
more.
looked like exactly what we talked about. It looked like when somebody makes like a Star Wars fan film and they're like, okay, we're gonna go out to the desert here and like, past like San Bernardino and fucking San Diego or whatever. We're gonna like film with this dude in his like Darth Maul costume, It was weird. But yeah, like uh, with animated you can actually build those worlds up and like animate them and shit. Whereas you're kind of limited when it's live action. So it's like for a Rebel series, or I mean, I guess they're putting in Ahsoka if that's true. But yeah, it's gonna be weird because we're so used to like think about the places we've been to in Rebels, and definitely one of the best places is that fucking the Sith Temple. I love that, and I just don't see them being able to easily recreate that. You know, something like that.
The thing of movies and shit, like the huge budgets and building out. Like I can definitely tell there are some setbacks in Mandalorian as far as the budget goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the volume is great, and I think it nails it pretty well. But there are some of those things where it does feel like a Star Wars TV show.
Yeah, and it's like as great as and as cinematic as the Mandalorian can feel, it has those TV limitations. You can tell. So yeah, if they're gonna do Rebel shit, I'd much rather have them do it animated because it's gonna be jarring, no matter what you do. If you go from Clone Wars or Rebels to a live action version of those, it's gonna be noticeable.
It's I don't know. I'm skeptical about what the future of Star Wars is going to be because if Rogue Squadron is what it is, are the other two Star Wars films slated going to be connected or are they just standalone films? Because at that point, I'm like, why not just put the standalone films and make them Disney Plus and then do, I don't know. And someone I was talking to, I won't name any names, but from what I've been told, it does seem like this High Republic stuff is going to lead, from what they can tell, to the Old Republic eventually. They're
Oh,
just
so
kind of slowly peeling back the cinch. So,
I mean, I will say from a business standpoint, I think it makes more sense because I think more people have probably seen Phantom Menace and like the prequels and everything more than they've played like KOTOR or the Old Republic. You know, like there are a lot of people who know of that, but I think there's much less people. I think more people know about the prequels and like that era than that. And since the High Republic is only like about 200 years before that, I think they're trying to ease in like that audience and shit. So we'll see. But I definitely hope they fucking as soon as possible get to the Old Republic. That'd be great.
I do too. It's
And oh yeah, we forgot uh Star Wars isn't exclusive to EA anymore, so I'm hoping that we can get maybe a remake of that game at some point. That'd be great. I don't know. Or
yeah,
something.
film games with Ubisoft doing an open world Star Wars game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to it, but I've heard their open world games haven't been that great, so I guess it's just
So I mean, a lot of their Assassin's Creed games are pretty good. The last one that I really like got like sat down and played and finished was Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which came out on like Xbox 360. So like the new ones they made are they're good, but they're just like really bloated, And that's kind of my worry with this is that it'll be like Assassin's Creed or something, but with Star Wars.
yeah.
But I will say I played a game that they made recently called Immortals: Phoenix Rising, and it's a little bit more. It's based off of Greek mythology, and it's a little bit more focused. So I'm hoping it'll be more like that because it's actually a really fun game. So with Ubisoft, it's kind of hit or miss with them. Sometimes they can be kind of similar to EA, where they like you know, they put too many of like the microtransactions or shit like that in something, but or they're like, oh, this is an online only game, blah blah blah, you know, that kind of shit. But I'm just hoping that, because I said it's open world, I hope they don't make it like an MMO almost kind of thing. I hope they focus more on like a single player thing, and then maybe there's some multiplayer included. And I hope they don't over saturate the shit like Assassin's Creed ends up being all the time. So we'll see.
I don't know how I feel about it because I love my favorite games are the Battlefront series. They always have been. I really hope that they do a Battlefront 3, whether it's with EA or somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm also kind of hyped for the Indiana Jones game because I'm kind of curious what
Oh
the fuck.
yeah, that looks like it could be interesting. Because
And I
I've
think
actually never.
they're really gonna push to finish that fucking movie finally.
Oh yeah. Well, if it does well, I would assume so. Um, yeah, no, I was never like the biggest fan of Indiana Jones, but I will say, I mean, I love the ride at Disney, but I will say, like, I think a game like that, it would be a lot like a Tomb Raider kind of thing or Uncharted, which I think would be like really fun because I think both of those things are kind of based off of, you know, something like Indiana Jones. So it'd definitely be cool to see.
Yeah.
And in that sense, you can get more of a, in a video game, you can get somebody who's like the character will be more like Harrison Ford. It's not like a movie where they'd have to recast him or anything like that. So yeah. I mean, obviously he's probably not going to do the voice, but at least they can make him look like Harrison Ford and everything. So
Guess it just time will tell. Also, a little disappointed that somehow Steven Spielberg is not attached anymore with that one because it's like he did the other four
yeah,
and I think he
Crystal
just didn't produce them. So what the fuck happened?
Crystal Skull wasn't great though, and I had to say this because I think it's kind of like how George Lucas, you know, like I think his style was like really really good, 80s 90s and shit like that, 80s 90s 2000s. But then the way that he does things, like they kind of don't work as well now. Because I will say that some of the newer stuff that I've seen Steven Spielberg do, they don't seem to be like classics anymore, like he used to do. You know, like the only one I can think of is like maybe like Ready Player One, where I wasn't really a fan of that movie that much, but I know a lot of people do like it. For some reason, like his movies aren't hitting the same as they used to. So I don't know, maybe that has to do with it, but yeah.
I think a part of it is because what they were doing for the time back then, it relied a lot more on earlier CGI, limited CGI, and more
Hmm.
practical. And I think when artists interpret their vision now, it's just not the same. I
Yeah.
don't even necessarily their fault. I think it's just maybe
Yeah.
not being catch up with the times, and it's a little more.
It's just it's weird, isn't it? Like, 'cause I feel like they did a lot of things similarly to, like George Lucas did a lot of things similarly to when he made the original trilogy, when he did the prequels, but it's just I don't know, it just didn't come off the same, or there was like maybe a bit too much to it, or I think it's because he, like he said, he had a little bit maybe too much like control, or it was like he, well, did he direct? He didn't direct. No, he had different directors on the prequels, right?
No, he directed all of them.
He directed all of them. Yeah, that I think that might be why. Where it's like, and then even like with their old movies, like that technology was so new that I think that alone, even though the movies themselves were good, like Jurassic Park and shit like that, it's just seeing that technology in action was so amazing that I think we all have that like, when's the first time you saw Jurassic Park and that T-Rex come out? You know what I mean? Whereas now, like it's not that big of a deal seeing CGI and shit. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think also as a kid, you kind of suspend your disbelief, and then when you're, especially for the older generation growing up, it's like they couldn't have imagined what movies would become. And
Hmm.
now I think it's because I think we're so jaded and used to what movies can be. Um, it, especially when you're older, you overanalyze things more.
Hmm. Yeah, I seen the title of a video the other day that was talking about is CGI worse now? And I'm like, I don't think it's worse. I just think we're just used to it now. So we're like the average person is really good. I was thinking about this a lot. The average person on the internet can like go into their phone and do a full edit of like a video. You know what I mean? And that's just not something that people could do before. So I think people are just more used to like with like YouTube and all that shit, they're more used to like seeing this shit, you know? So they when they see bad CGI now, it's not something that they would have been able to identify as much before because it was such a new thing. But now they're like, oh, it's bad CGI. But when it's good, you really don't even know that it's fucking CGI. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like it's gotten like way better. Like to the point to where some movies you literally don't know. Like there were parts of the Mandalorian that were CG, but you can't fucking tell. Like half of Baby Yoda is like CG, and people don't even know. So it's like
Well, I think most of it's practical. I don't think there's really much that's CG'd on him.
I think they did it to like get his like ears like more animated and like his eyes and some shit like that. But it's like you look at, and I mean they did a really good job with the practical like puppet itself and everything. Because you look at like they have that video of Robert Rodriguez like dancing by it and shit, and it's already pretty animated, so it's kind of crazy how they were able to do that. But yeah,
Well, $5 million gets you quite a ways with the pup.
yeah. And then that's the thing, like, what was that movie? Ex Machina. Have you ever seen that with um? I can't think of his name, but Poe Dameron. And
Oscar.
it Oscar Isaacs. Yeah, the CG in that movie is fucking incredible. Like it just looks like it would be like it's real. Like there's some real shit going on. So yeah, I don't know. I think we're in a time where we're spoiled with all this shit now. You know.
I definitely agree with that. I think overall, I think people are a lot more. I think because we're also in this bubble of people that critique films and stuff, we're a little bit jaded and we pick apart shit more easily.
Yeah.
But I will admit, or I do think, I keep saying admit, I do think, like, I ask myself a lot when watching the sequel trilogy, do I not like it as much as the other two because I'm older and more picky? And then I think to myself, no, because I did like TFA quite a bit, even though it is
Hmm.
kind of a rehash. The ending is a little dumb because it's
Yeah.
like, why would
That's
Killer Base like?
no that's just funny that you point that out because I think about that a lot too. I'm like, am I just older and I overanalyze things now? Is that why I don't like The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker? Do I like watch reviews or like read this or look at this and I'm like overanalyzing it now and it's letting me not enjoy it? But then I'm like, yeah, you think about it and I'm like, no, because there are genuine parts of every single one of those movies that I like, but there's not enough of them. And like you can absolutely like just go back and like think about that and it's just like, nope. Like it's just not good. That's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes it is hard for me to like newer films. Like, I like films that really kind of they just have good story. Like, there might be a few issues here or there, but for the most part, it's just fun and entertaining. But I also know too, it's like even when a story isn't the greatest, but at least it's entertaining, then I
Hmm.
like.
Yeah.
But it's CLJ, it just seems like a lot of like sad, mopey Luke and
Yeah.
oh, let's go find the fucking horses and not free the slave kids and
A lot of movies like nowadays take themselves way too seriously you think about like the movies that they made in like the 80s, even like the 90s, early 2000s, it was just about making a fucking fun movie. Like that's it, you know. Now I think everybody's trying to make some Oscar worthy shit, you know.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is kind of like the death of like the mid-budget film where it's only like maybe 50 to under 100 mil. Like
Yeah,
those movies are some of the best. Like, and I think the death of like the comedy. Like, there's not a lot of good comedy films because everyone I think is afraid because, whoa, PC language and we can't offend anybody. Like,
yeah, it's definitely harder. I think like I noticed that a lot of comedies now they always kind of had to sort of include like, oh, this is a comedy, but it also has heart, you know. And I mean that's fine. There's some good comedies like that, but I have noticed that because I've been watching like if you ever watch any of the ones on like Hulu or something like that, it's like they'll have funny moments, but they always have these really like serious fucking moments too, you know. And it's just like that's fine, but like sometimes I just want to watch a comedy and just like
laugh.
and just laugh and have fun. That's it. Like I get it, you're gonna throw in like, yeah, this person goes through serious shit. Like I get it totally. Like comedies have always had that, but it's kind of few and far between. Whereas I feel like a lot of new shows are there. They have like one or two every season or something. You know, you think about something like Fresh Prince. They had serious episodes where they dealt with real shit, but the majority of it was just fun. You know, so yeah, it's. And I had this conversation with somebody today. Think about like the 2000s comedies. You know, like Dodgeball, Super Bad, like all those Judd Apatow movies, really. Just all that shit that was in the 2000s. They were just good fun. And I almost think about something like Dodgeball, and I feel like it wasn't. I don't think there was anything in there that was even really offensive to anybody, you know, that I can remember. Like in Dodgeball or something. Like probably Super Bad or something. But uh, I just think about that, and I'm like, I
The
feel like some of
level
them.
of person, because there are people like you're calling him a little girl. That's the meaning to women. Like,
Yeah, it's that definitely is possible. It depends on the person, and also, I mean, yeah, we had the internet back then, but we didn't have like Twitter and shit, where people will find one scene from something, overanalyze it, and be like, I feel like they're trying to say here this, but it's like, it depends on the person, and then the internet just explodes things to a whole nother level. But yeah, definitely, I feel like comedies now they always have to either have a message or be deeper in some way or whatever, and they don't just have fun with it. Like, yeah, I feel you on that. I'm trying to think of the last one that I've seen that really just like had fun. I don't know, Rick and Morty. So, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, one of the few comedies that I can really think
Family, Family
superhero.
Guy.
Well, that, but like as far as movies go, I mean, Deadpool, and then
Yeah, Deadpool.
enjoyed a lot was the Lovebirds on Netflix,
Lovebirds.
but it
Oh
did
yeah.
PC stuff where it's like, did you really need to throw that in? Like,
Well, because that was Camille Nanjiani, right, and Issa Rae.
and
Yeah, I mean they have a black lead, and then
I believe
he's Pakistani. So yeah, I already kind of knew they'd probably throw something like that in there. But I mean, if you say it's good, I definitely I still want to watch that movie and everything. But yeah,
I bought both of their costumes. So
it's definitely. And we talked about this before, like me being black, you being Hispanic, and everything. It's like we don't need to point out like that doesn't need to be this center of their character is the fact that they're black, white, Hispanic, gay, straight, whatever. Because when you have a straight white male in a comedy, that is never the basis of their fucking character. It just never is. The base of their characters or whatever the fuck their character's about. And that's why shit like super bad or whatever worked. It wasn't because they had like mostly white cast or something. It's because they just talked about the fucking characters. and it's just, it doesn't matter who you are. It's like, I know people who are extremely PC, but they can like watch a fucking movie and that shit will still take them out of it. You know what I mean? So it's like, when you're on the nose with things, you like do shit like that, it just can take people out of it. So it's like, yeah, it just, especially if it's a comedy, just like have fun. That's what it's for. It's a fucking comedy, you know?
I mean, that's one of the things. Like when I write my scripts, it's like I just want to have a good story, and I want to get away from the world. I don't need to be reminded of the bullshit conversations and Twitter fights that we have. Like, there's no point to that. Like, the whole reason for me and so many other people to go to the movies or do anything else outside of your house is to get away from all the bullshit for 1.5 to 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we're not going there unless it's like a documentary. Like, we're not going there to fucking learn. Like,
Yeah.
maybe a lesson or a moral, maybe, but it's
Yeah.
not the
So I guess just any directors or writers or whatever watching this, just have fun. Like that's what movies are about. People go to the movies to have fun, unless they just really like watching like, I don't know, slave movies or something for some reason. I don't know. Like the people go to the movies to have fun or be scared or something. You know what I mean? Like you go to a comedy to laugh. You go to a horror movie to be scared. You go to a sci-fi action adventure to enjoy the sci-fi action adventure shit. Like, yeah, you know.
Are there any slave movies coming out next month?
I mean, without even checking, I'm gonna say yes because there's always a slave movie coming out, man. I'm sorry. Like, there's always one. Like, no matter what, they're just like, yo, what's that? I know for sure there's a fucking civil rights movie. There's one about the Black Panthers coming out, which actually I will say it looks like it could be interesting because it looks like it might be from the perspective of some guy who's working for the FBI. So it might be interesting, but we'll see. Uh, but they always at least have like one civil rights or one slave movie coming out, and I'm like, damn, it's like a thousands of other eras that we could be in, guys. I'm just saying, like, not everything's gotta be in fucking 1940s, 1950s, like shit. But yeah,
And it's always depressing black stories for the most part too. It's not like
yeah,
I think one of the ones that was pretty good, and I'm sure everything probably gets watered down like with anything in movies and historical things, but
mm-hmm.
like Hidden Figures, I thought was one of those movies that was really solid and like you can go back and enjoy it. Like it's championing something and like overcoming something,
Yeah.
and it's a really good historical event, but it's not. I feel like
Instead of just focusing on like trauma the whole time and like, yeah,
and it's not. I mean, race is a part of the movie for sure, but it's not the
it's not the
central.
focus. Like the character is the focus. That's the thing. Yeah, like the characters are the focus. That's what you want in the movie. You just want good characters that you can focus on and connect with. Like that's it. And I feel like a lot of people forget that, but yeah. So all that relates to the sequel trilogy, and
John Boyega hated Finn. I'm just kidding.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, shit. I mean, you think about John Boyega and like his complaints and everything he's talking about with that. That's what he fucking wanted. He just wanted a good character, you know, that people could like, and he was at first, and then he became the glorified Ray cheerleader by the third movie. So
Someone needs to do an edit where he's like in a cheerleading suit.
Ray, she's our man.
I mean, not. I mean, I'm not trying to guess your gender. Or
Fucking Ray, I have something to tell you. I think I'm force sensitive.
yeah. It's like, how do you know a feeling? A
Yeah, I'm
feeling.
like, why couldn't he just say that out loud to her real quick? I don't. It's like right there. I don't know.
Because it wasn't planned.
I was like, Ray, I think I got the force.
Do you think AJ intended for Finn to be force sensitive at the beginning?
Yes, I think that's honestly why he gave him the lightsaber in the first one. But I also knew that he wasn't going to be like the main Jedi or anything. Especially after the end of like Force Awakens and like Ray gets in, I'm like, okay, Ray's a Kenobi. Finn will probably eventually be a Jedi when he figures out later. Like I felt like Finn in this one was kind of like the Leia, basically, of the original trilogy, where like he like kind of hint at it the whole time, and then by the end you're like, oh yeah, okay, he's also force sensitive, you know. And you can you talk about that feeling thing, right? But they technically did that with Leia too in the original trilogy. When she's like, I don't know, I just know it. When she's talking to Han, about
When they
Luke.
did it with her, the argument that it felt deeper. The way
Well,
that
they were brother and sister. That's the other thing. So it is deeper because of that. Whereas Ray and Finn are, I hope they wouldn't be related. That'd be weird. But yeah.
but they got close to each other because they were, TFA together,
Mhm.
saving. I think, and yeah, it is kind of the same way. But again, it's all about execution. I felt the execution was pretty good, and I mean, you could argue it's like somehow I've always known.
Well,
It's a little weird, but better than the other one.
we always talk about this. The Last Jedi just kind of ruined all that because it just completely changed everybody's characters and their motivations. So it's like if that would have connected better to TFA, then that could have connected better to Rise of Skywalker. And yeah. But yeah, they didn't. Because I mean, even the original trilogy, like I said, it wasn't perfect. It had problems. Like when we talk about the that Yoda line when he's like, "No, there's another," or whatever. It's just like we didn't really know what he was talking about really back then. I think we all assumed Leia, but then I don't know if later on it became Anakin or something. Like, you know what I mean? So it was like, I don't know.
It Leia. Anyone who thinks it's other than Leia is fucking stupid.
Well, I know people argue though that no, it was Vader in the end because he turned and he helped him and he threw the the Emperor down the shaft. Yeah.
Well, I think it was because like if Luke were to have died and perished, like we have a backup Skywalker.
Kind of a fucked up line when you think about it. He's like, he's kind of like the chosen one, but then again, he has a twin, so I don't know. We're good guys, just in case. Yoda.
Do you think it's possible that we'll get maybe a Luke? I know I've asked this before, and I'm gonna, unless there's anything else you want to talk about, I think we'll see any of Luke and Leia during 6 and 7 that they might recast or do anything with that.
And
Because
during like these shows, or just like during like the new movies, or
shows or movies, I don't know if they'll CGI. I wouldn't mind recasting as long as it's a good choice.
mm-hmm. I feel like Leia is a little bit less likely than Luke. If we do see her, it'll be like maybe a limited thing, like the end of Rogue One, possibly. Like they just get like her daughter and then like CG her face on her or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. Luke, I feel like it's definitely possible. Cause like I mean, like you said, we heard Hamill. He can recreate that fucking voice just fine. So, or if they wanted for depending on whatever show it is and where it's at, they can still do. Like he doesn't look like he didn't look his age. Like he looks pretty great, honestly, for his age. He just cut his hair like they did in TLJ, and then didn't actually have him fucking show up. Like they cut his hair again, give him like the slimming like black or whatever, and yeah, I think it'd be fine. They could easily have him play like late 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
All right, I think that'll do it for us today at Jabbering Jawas. Thank you all for listening. Sorry if we kind of went off the rails as we usually do. More so.
It's been a while. Tuning in. It's been a while. And hey, Happy New Year, by the way. The last one was before. But yeah, thank you all.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's 2021. Shout out to everybody who keeps watching. And we will see you on the next one.
May the force be with you.
Always.